Hello, everybody. This is Layron with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. The music today is brought to you by Syrinscape. We are playing with the new web player feature. That's what we have playing in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that down so that we don't get distracted too much. And we're going to get going on the all request DnD5e character build. So if you're interested in having a specific character built, we can go ahead and do that if you like. I would like to thank Smiteworks for helping us, sponsoring us, and also from Syrinscape, Ben Looms, who had appeared on our recent symposium for Founders Day weekend. It was a lot of fun. So without further ado, we're going to build a character based on the watcher's input. If you guys have a specific character that you would like to have build, we'll take the requests first come, first serve, and build a character of your choice. You can only build one character per stream, so apologize. If you want something built, or if you want to see how it's supposed to go together with Fantasy Grounds, that's the whole idea, is kind of learn, but also to have your specific character built, so you can either do your own. You can also email us and request a copy of the XML file. We won't send any artwork or anything like that, but we can send a character. This will be automated and set up for everything if you need to. We're going to try this out and see how this goes. If it's not very popular or the content isn't something that people want to see, then I won't do it again, but we're going to give this a try. So we'll use the character wizard. We're going to use the DnD5e rule set to create the characters. In the library, I have quite a bit of content, so there shouldn't be too many limitations on what we can build. You can see I got all the Rob 2e automation stuff, all the core rules, a lot of the supplemental stuff. We won't be using Kobold Press or one of those other third-party publishers for the character content. The only third-party content I'm using is actually this effects automation that Rob puts out. But other than that, we're going to keep to the actual official content. So we have a lot of the third-party, or excuse me, the adventures that come from Wizards of the Coast. And then we're going to use the character wizard, which will make it a little bit quicker to build characters. As far as automation and customization goes, we'll do that towards the end of the show. But you basically can pick how you want to roll your stats, and then we'll select the race and the class and the background and all those sorts of things using the character wizard. And then we'll use starting equipment and that sort of thing and set up the spells. Then once that happens, we can opt if we want to level up or if you just want to call it good. So I'm hoping less than 90 minutes. Don't want the show to drag on and on and on. So if you guys have something specific that you would like to build, go ahead and put that in the chat, and I'll go ahead and take that request. This is mainly for people that are, newer to the platform, or perhaps you want to have something built because you're not sure how to do it. Whatever it may be, we'll help you with that. And then, like I said, you can email us after the show. I put it in the links after the video post. If you need to get a copy of that character, you may ask for that. Like I said, we're not going to send artwork or tokens or anything like that, but we certainly will send some of the data so that you can use in your games. You can actually import it. So in the character selection window, if you have Fantasy Grounds, you can actually bring up the character selection, which is under the group called Play, under Characters. And then there is a blue arrow on the bottom right that you can use to import the XML file. So if you click on Import, it will go to a screen where you can import characters from other campaigns in Fantasy Grounds, as long as it's the same rule set. And then you also hit the blue arrow again, and that will actually allow you to import the XML file. So the first time you click on it, it will allow you to import internally from your other campaigns. So if you have characters in other campaigns, you can pull those in. But if you actually have a file or the XML data from another campaign, or maybe your DM has sent it to you, you can click on this import again, and it will ask you to point to the file on your hard drive. So that's how you import an external character. One caveat about that for importing characters is that if you don't own the content and you import the character, you will not be able to level up without having the content. So even if someone makes you a character and it's at 3rd level and you want to go up to like 5th level, you still will have to have either the same table that was built on or your own content to level up. So just let you know that ahead of time. So if anyone wants a specific character built, just let me know. If by the half an hour mark we don't get any interest, I'll go ahead and build something that I'd like to build, and then we'll call it a stream, and then I'll probably look for other content to make, because I don't want to keep making content if no one's interested in it. So we'll give it a try and we'll see how it goes. But again, we're just going to build characters based off the input of the people who want a character built. Like I said, you can actually email us and we'll send the XML if you need it for a game, or if you want to check it out, see how it's built. The whole idea is to get you familiar with the platform. We're not going to do this just to build characters. We want to also teach people how to use the platform. So we'll go step by step. You can ask questions, and you can certainly decide how you want your character to be built. You just direct me, tell me what race, class, background, that sort of thing. There are different methods for creating the stats. So when you use the character wizard, you have an option. So if I click on the character selection and then I click on character wizard, it's going to pull the wizard up. One thing you got to make sure of when you're using the character wizard is make sure that you have all of your books loaded before you start the wizard. And I know a lot of times people will say, well, I don't see any of my books here. And that's because they bring this up and then they go in and activate the books. And what happens is the wizard doesn't pull on the library and some of that content won't show up. So it's a good idea to load all of your content first before you build characters. And that also goes for your players. So if you have players connected to the table and they want to build a character, they also need to go into their library and enable whatever books they're going to use to build their characters. And then you want to start the character wizard. If you start it halfway through, it may not show a lot of the content that you've just opened. And the other thing is third-party content, like stuff from the DM's Guild. It may not show that either. I don't know if the wizard has been optimized to fully accept homebrew or third-party content with the character wizard. So if you have any of that kind of stuff, you will have to use the older drag and drop method of character creation. And for this particular stream, we won't be using Kobold Press or any of the other third-party content. Not at this time anyways. So if you have something specific that you would like to build, go ahead and put that in the chat, and we'll go ahead and start building the character based on your input. It just depends on what you want, what you need. This is for the DnD5e rule set. I don't have access to many of the other rule sets. Plus, I'm not 100% familiar with character creation for like Pathfinder and those other rule sets. So if I did have that, I could do a show based on that too, which might be very helpful for the community. And I can possibly find other users that might be more familiar with the process. So that could be something we could do in the future. But for right now, we're going to do the DnD5e rule set. Like I said, the music that we're playing in the background is coming from Syrinscape. It's a new web player where you can actually port your audio through the web player instead of using the software application or using the website. You just basically give your players an app link, or you can put it in OBS as an audio source. And when you actually play through the interface through your dashboard as the host, it will play through the browser, and all your players will need is that browser link. They won't need to go through Discord and all the other stuff. So it's kind of a cool thing. It's free for the rest of this month. I think after that, you're going to have a Super Sirens subscription in order to use the web player, or at least to use the sets that come with it. I'm not sure how the model is going to work out as far as that goes, but if you have a Super Syrinscape and you have access to like basically all the sound sets, you can upload your own sound sets through the dashboard. It's a little bit of a process, but it can be done. So if you have a collection of your own audio, you can upload those and use those. But it does rely on the fact that you have that subscription. So anyhow, if you got any characters that we'd like to build, or anything specific, like maybe you want to see how a warlock goes together or something like that, just let me know in the chat, and we'll try to accommodate you. Like I said, if we don't get any users or anyone interested by 30 minutes after, I'll go ahead and just build something, and we'll go from there. But generally, this process isn't too bad. I was saying earlier, you have different methods for setting up your character. So the first method that comes up when you start the wizard is the standard array, which is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. That's unmodified by anything at this point. You can also select to do a manual entry where you just type in the numbers. You can also do a point buy where you actually will take and increase your stats from 8 on up to the limit. And then you have your point buy total here on the right that'll keep track of it. And then, of course, you can do a roll. So if you roll the dice, it will actually keep those numbers. It'll populate in order. You can move them around with these little arrows if you want. But what I'm going to do for the stream is we'll do 3 rolls, and then we'll decide which set to keep. I don't want to go too much further than that. Kind of defeats the idea of having it. But this last method drops the lowest number. So if you roll only 1s or 2s or stuff like that, it will actually drop the numbers. And then when you actually roll these, it will populate these fields, but you can actually move the stats around. So it's really not too bad. And like I said, you can always go to the point buy or a standard array, and that will reset it. So whatever you guys want to do for stat creation, we can pick it. We can do the point buy system, or we can actually do anything you'd like as far as for your build. So this is a request. If you guys want to build a specific character, I'm open to that. We got another 15 minutes, and then I will start creating something of my choice if we don't have anyone in the chat that wants a character built. But we're using the DnD5e rule set. Over on the right in the library, when I open up my modules, I have quite a bit of content here, so we can pretty much build almost anything you want in regards to official content. Like I said, I don't have Pathfinder and other rule sets. Also, I don't have access to a lot of the third-party content because it doesn't pull that content over very well, so that's why I don't use it until the character wizard gets updated to where it actually will start pulling more of the third-party content. I won't provide that, but we have all the basics, and we have a lot of the add-on modules for character creation and backgrounds and such. So we have Baldur's Gate, Ghost of Saltmarsh, Tomb of Annihilation, we have Tasha's, we have Waterdeep, we have Van Richten's. So we have all those because those offer a few alternate backgrounds and archetypes. And then we have the Journey Through the Radiant Citadel, Monsters of the Multiverse, and we have the Player's Handbook, Sword Coast Adventures Guide. So those are all the main books for character creation. And then the only third-party content I have is the Rob 2e effects coding modules, which are really just automated effects for the DnD5e rule set. So we'll do that at the end for the automation if needed. And that will help build the character a little bit more thoroughly. We don't have to use those, but it would be handy. And then we'll customize. We'll grab some of the equipment and maybe a little bit of the background info. So that's kind of the format. Is we want to take and add the stats first, and then we'll go down over to the right and follow this list up here in the character wizard. So it says stats, and then you're going to pick race, and then class, and then background. And when you're picking your class on first level, another couple boxes will open up, one for your starting equipment and then one for spells, depending on what you are. So if you're a spellcaster of any sort, the spells thing will open up. So it just depends on what you choose. But as you satisfy each one of these, it will turn these green, which means you can move on. And you can kind of go back and forth, mix and match, take a look at things. You have this preview window on the right-hand side. So you can go back and change things. But once you hit this commit button, it saves the character, and it's pretty much a done deal at that point. It's hard to go back and fix it. You might as well just start over. So once you're done with your character, you can go back and look it over before you hit the commit button. That way you're not having to rebuild it. So we're going to put request character for the title, and whoever requests or gets a request fulfilled, we'll use that character, and they can email us, and you can get the character in XML format. Like I said, I will not send any artwork or tokens, but we'll send the data, just the text information for you, so you can import this into your own game if you want to. So it depends on what you need. We can also level the character, so it doesn't have to necessarily be level 1. If you want to go up to level 3, that'll be the highest it will go. And the reason for that is so that every class will have its specific archetype, because different classes get their archetype or their specialization at different levels. So it just depends on the build. Usually the clerics, druids, wizards, such, they get their at first level. And then like rangers and paladins will get it at like second level. And then rogues and fighters and such will get their archetype at third level. So it just depends on your build. But you have a full caster, half caster, and 1/3 caster is basically how that works as far as spells go. We will add whatever custom content you like, just like maybe the background information on the character sheet. But like I said, once you commit, that saves the character as a record, and then it opens up the actual standard character sheet, and that you're pretty much stuck with what you have. So you got to go back over your choices before you hit commit. That way you're not having to go back and recreate or rebuild the character if you made the wrong choice. So you can preview the build all the way up to you hit commit, and then you're pretty much stuck with the character unless you start over. So if anybody would like to have the characters built, just go ahead and say so in the chat. If not, in about 10 minutes, I will start building my own build. I'll go through that process with the character wizard. Like I said, I got a lot of content that is loaded, and we have access to a majority of the character creation content from Wizards of the Coast, the official books. Like I said, we're not using Kobold Press or any of the other third-party stuff yet, because the character wizard does not accept that yet. You would have to use the older drag and drop to build a lot of the older or the third-party content, so that's why we're not going to use that. But you know, down the road, maybe that if this becomes a thing or if it gets popular enough, we'll add that stuff in. Again, the music is by Syrinscape, and you can turn that up or down according to what we need. I don't want it to be too distracting, but it is pretty cool that you can now play through the web player, and you do not have to use anything like a robot with Discord or have to use voice meter and all that other stuff. So it's really handy for that sort of thing. So anyhow, I hope that we get a customer here before long, because then I'm just going to start building and we'll just call it a stream. If it isn't very popular, I might change the format. It could also be the time. A lot of people are still at work or having dinner, so that could be an issue. Let's see. So, pretty exciting that Spelljammer will be coming out pretty soon. So, next week, I believe it will be the 16th, which is Tuesday of next week. So we got a little less than a week. That content should be dropping then. You'll notice that Stormwreck Island dropped in stores for Target recently. That content was supposedly going to be a special release for the physical products. The actual virtual and all the other products will be released in October. So that's why you're not seeing that in the store yet. So that was an exclusive deal with Target that they have for the actual physical box. But the virtual stuff and all the online stuff will be out in October. So probably look for that. I don't know what day, but it'll be out sometime probably by Halloween. And then, you know, we have Spelljammer to look forward to. So that'll be a whole new thing. I know that Doug Davison had previewed a little bit on the ship, so they're adding the Spelljammer ship capability to the DnD5e rule set. It isn't going to be available for the core entirely because of all the different requirements from different rule sets, but it is a nice thing to have because you can put in regular ships, you can put in, you know, like siege engines, you can even probably create something that's like a horse. It just gives you the ability to have a vehicle, and then you can have your damage threshold and those sort of things for the actual gameplay. So that'll be fun. You know, like Starfinder and Traveler already kind of have their own system. I don't know if it works the same way in the other rule sets, such as Savage Worlds. I don't know how they handle vehicles, but I know some of the modern rule sets in that particular genre for Savage Worlds, they might have the need for having a vehicles. And I'm not sure how that's handled, if it's just an NPC or they actually have their own extension that creates that. I'm not sure, but it's going to be kind of cool to have that. So we're going on 30 after. In about 10 minutes, I'm going to just start building a character based off of what I want to do. I was hoping to get people to come on and request a character of some sort. So if that's something you're interested in, it's still open for the next 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to build a character on the existing current DnD5e rule set. I apologize if this is not, Pathfinder 2 or Starfinder. I have to get other people involved to do those if they're wanting to do like an all request hour for creating content. But there's a lot of good options. If you have the content available to you as the GM, you have a lot of content that you can get for your players. If you're a player, generally you'll probably have to rely on your GM, but if you have your own content, like maybe you have a standard license, maybe the player's handbook, and maybe 1 or 2 other books to build characters, that's kind of cool too. But generally the GM or the host has the control over that. So if you're just playing, you might be at the mercy of whoever's table you're playing at, depending on what content you have. So this may be helpful for you if you want to build a character for an upcoming game, or perhaps you just want to learn how it goes together in Fantasy Grounds. That's what this would be good for. It isn't something that I would do all the time, but I was thinking maybe once a month we could do some sort of character building content so that people are getting more familiar with the process and also kind of get to see what some of the options are. As I feel that character creation is one of the most important aspects of Fantasy Grounds, because if the characters are built correctly and they're thorough, it's less likely to cause problems during the game, and the player will actually get to benefit from some of the automation of the game, and then they also get the benefit from the details that go into their character build. So it's helpful to have a complete character and to understand how it goes together, because it can be a real challenge for the GM and the table if you're constantly have to fix things and try to figure out what went wrong and those sort of things. So that's one of the good things about practicing with the Fantasy Grounds platform, is you can kind of get familiar with all the different things and all the different aspects and all the different builds and combinations, because every single combination is a little different. And the more of those that you do and the more of those that you build, the easier it is for you to get acquainted with where things are and how they work in the rule set. So we got about 5 minutes. So if you want a character specifically built for you, or you want to see how something goes together, just let me know. Otherwise, in about maybe 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to start building my own character based off of something I want to build. This is a request hour, so if you're somebody that's watching live, you can request. If you are seeing this in the archives, I apologize, as the content is kind of minimal and slow. It's because we're doing it live and we're hoping to get people to get into the idea that they can request a character to be built so they can see what it looks like, and even possibly email us for just a preview copy of it so they can check it out and see how it's built. Again, we're not going to send the artwork or tokens or anything like that. It'll just be the XML text data. So that is something that might happen to you in a game where you have to build something and send it to your GM. So that's kind of up to your table and who you're playing with and the rule set that you have. But in Fantasy Grounds, for the 5th edition rule set, you can export characters into an XML file. It doesn't pull the portrait or the token data, but all the other stuff should be on there, the text information. So that could be helpful if you're going to be playing an Adventure League or something like that. You may want to be able to have that capability. So anybody wants to have a character build, just let me know. We'll build a certain character. If not, I'll just start building something that I'll request for myself. So I'm thinking about building something that will be more conducive to playing in a certain setting. Maybe I'll do a salt marsh based character like a pirate or something like that, or perhaps something for the Underdark, but I think that's kind of overly done. So maybe I will make something from Fizbin's, which will potentially have the new archetype for the Ranger. So we could do something like that, or if you guys want something built specifically for one of your games, we could do that too. So again, we've got about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to start going into auto mode and just start building something. I might actually do something random kind of too, where it's just really no plan, just kind of see how it turns out. So I might just roll some stats. I'll do like 3 sets. I'll keep the best of the 3, or at least what I think's the best, and then we'll go from there. So again, we got about 3, 4, 5 minutes the most. And once that is over, I'm just going to go ahead and start building using Fantasy Grounds and the 5e rule set. So this is a request character. And as I was saying earlier, we can use 3 different ways to generate a character. So you have manual entry, point buy, standard array. So the default is standard array, which is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. And you can rearrange these numbers by using the arrows underneath these cells to push and pull different numbers in different directions if you need to. Or we can use a manual entry where we just hand type in everything. And then again, you can use a point buy if you want to use points to purchase different abilities and level up that way. Or you can do a dice roll. So when you actually select the dice, it will actually place all those in the order it was rolled. So this is a pretty good roll. We have 15, 15, 10, 9, 11. Wow, that's a pretty good roll. I might actually keep that. So that's the first roll that I had. And we'll go ahead and just roll with that. No pun intended. So with someone that's such a really good start, I think I might build a bard, because bards actually benefit from having a lot of these scores higher. So the intelligence was going to be 15. I'll leave the dex as 15, but we definitely want to have the constitution maybe 11. So we'll move the constitution over to 11. The charisma, we want that to be 15 for sure. So 15 charisma, 15 intelligence, and then we'll have 15 dex. They're going to have a 10 for strength, and I'm going to move that over actually. I'm going to move the 10 over to their wisdom, and then I'll put the 9 over where their strength is. They don't need to be super strong as a bard. So there's 9 for strength, 15 dex, 11 con, 15 intelligence, 10 wisdom, and 15 charisma. So that's pretty good for a bard. I'd say that that's going to be a decent bard. So that's how we did it. We just kind of rolled. It took all the rolls and kind of put it in order, and now we're arranging the stats where we want them to go. So that's the first step, is to build and get your ability scores. And since we got a pretty good roll, we have a bunch of 15s, I went ahead and put it in dex, intelligence, and charisma, because that's basically what your bard probably will use the most. And then I'm going to go to race. Now we can pick any race we want, but I'm kind of thinking of something a little less traditional. I was hoping to use perhaps a satyr, or maybe a fairy, or something a little bit less common. Maybe a minotaur, which is kind of weird, but it could work. A Harengen, which is your rabbit folk. They make pretty good bards. And then you have the we can use a turtle if we wanted, a shifter, tabaxi. So I'm going to use the actual satyr. I think that comes from the Odyssey book, so I'm going to go ahead and click satyr. And when I do that, it actually will add any of the racial skill bonuses if there's any applied to it. So first it's asking me for a language, so I'm going to go ahead and pick Sylvan. He already has common. So you can pick the racial modifier. So choice 1 is kind of your standard, and then choice 2 is like the Tasha's version. So I'm going to just do the standard one, which is choice 1. And what it did is added to these, it'll add to this. So I want to go to add 2 to charisma, which will make it 17. And then I'm going to add 1 to dex. So that will make that 16. So that's a pretty good start. And then we're going to have some sort of instrument. So we need to pick one. I'll do a pan flute, which I think is very thematic for a satyr. So that'll be that. And then the race thing is now satisfied. And if you look over on the preview window, it shows you the stats, the languages. You start off with performance and persuasion, so we don't have to pick those again when we come to the class. So let's see what the class is going to give us. So we're going to pick Bard in this case. And what we need to do is figure out 3 different instruments. So we already had a pan flute, so let's go with a lyre. Let's go with a lute and maybe a drum. So that's all the different instruments that he's proficient with. And he has 3 proficiencies. So I'm going to do Arcana. I want to do, let's go with, let's see, History is helpful. And then we get 1 more. So I'm going to look at Stealth. So we have that. We haven't picked Performance yet, and I think I might go back and pick that if we need to. But that satisfies the class thing. So actually what I'll do is I'll go back to this, and I'm going to pick Performance instead. So where is that? Performance, do we already have it? Oh yeah, we already have Performance, so we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so background is satisfied. Let's go with, so maybe a Charlatan. Charlatan gives us, let's see, what did it give us? We got Sleight of Hand and Deception out of that. So that's pretty cool. So they have Arcana, History, Persuasion, Stealth, Deception, Performance, Sleight of Hand. And they got their creature type traits. So they got the Ram, Mirthful Leaps, Magic Resistance, False Identity. They have their own creature type. They have all kinds of cool stuff. Rapier, Pan Flute, Lyra, Lute, Longsword, Light Armor, Hand Crossbows, Forgery Kit, Drum, and Disguise Kit. So I already like the way this thing is shaping up. So we're going to go to the inventory, which this shows up after you've chose these 4 different backgrounds. So I'm going to go ahead and click on inventory. It brings up the inventory dialog here. Now you can purchase equipment or you can reset if you have to. And you can also pick something like a preset. So there's a Diplomat's pack and an Entertainer's pack. So I'm going to go with the Entertainer's pack. And then you get another choice of a weapon of some sort. So we already have, let's see, proficiencies in rapiers and such. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the rapier. And then you get another instrument of choice. So this is the actual physical item. So I'll go with the pan flute. So that's the equipment for the starting equipment. Now later on you can add more if you need to. And then last but not least, the feats and the spells. So let's go with the spells. And apparently I get 2 spells from the Bard cantrip area. So what I'm going to do is pick, let's see, let's go with, I'll go with Blade Ward. And 1 other. Let's go with maybe Minor Illusion. So those are my 2 cantrips. And then for level 1 spells, I think I get 2 of those out of 4. So what I'm going to do is let's see, let's do Charm Person. And then we will do Cure Wounds. Let's see. Fairy Fire, that's very, very handy. And then 1 other. Let's do Featherfall or, let's see, there's Silent Image, Sleep, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Thunderwave. Yeah, let's do Tasha's Hideous Laughter. I always like that one. So those are the 4 spells that he has in his spell book, or that he has available to him. And now what we'll do is, once you have the spells satisfied, you can change these at this point. But now I'm going to click on feats. There is no qualifications or reasons for feats. It just gives you a check. So everything is green straight across the board. So that means we're done with that. So we can go back and look at the stats, check the race out, go to the classes, go to the backgrounds, that sort of thing. So you make sure you got everything before you hit the commit button, and you look in the preview window and make sure that you don't have anything doubled up or anything weird happening. It looks like we have all of the required things for this. Is a Bard character, and it's a Satyr. So I'm going to change that to Bard Satyr, and that way we know what this is. So when we save it, it'll actually give us that. So here's the Bard Satyr. We already have all the main stuff. Once I hit commit, it's going to pull all that data onto the character sheet. And at that point, that's when it saves. So once you're at this point, it's hard to go back and fix this. So you probably have to start over, because when you come in here and you start deleting stuff, you get confused as to what was actually added and those sort of things. So that can be problematic. So this is a Satyr character. So if you wanted to add a portrait, you could at this time, which I probably won't, because this is a test character. And then if you have a token, your GM has to assign that. The players can't access tokens. Now, when you pick a portrait, the actual portrait becomes your default token unless you find something you like better. And here's all the proficiencies. There's all the traits. And then here's all the additional spells and that sort of thing. So if you don't want to use the Tasha's additional spell feature, which is optional, you can actually right-click on this and delete it if you don't want to get confused. And then there's 2 spell casting statements here, one for the Bard and then one general one. So if you don't want both of these, you can get rid of the spell casting one if you need to, because this one actually details most of the things for you. The spell casting one is generally kind of a generic one that's for all spellcasters, but this one pulls over the right one, but it's not specific to the Bard, but it is related to the Bard. So I'm just going to delete this one. I don't really need both of those. And then for creature type, it just says your Fey creature, your magic resistance, you have advantage on saving throws against spells. You have a leap ability, which allows you to roll a d8, and then you add that number, roll to the number of feet you can cover, even when making a standing jump. So the extra distance costs movement as normal. For speed, your walking speed is 35 feet, so you're rather quick. And then you have your Bardic Inspiration, False Identity, and your Spellcasting trait. So those are just what comes over when you pull all the correct things over from the source books. And now your inventory, if you go to your inventory tab, it's going to have all these different things laid out here. You have your backpack, your bedroll. So if you want to organize this, you can actually type the container type on the right-hand side. So maybe you put your bedroll, the stoppered bottles, the candles, your costume. So these are things that you might put in, and he's got like 2 costumes and 2 fine clothing. So I'm just going to change those to 1. He doesn't need several copies. He's got a dagger, so I'm actually going to give him 2 daggers, 3 disguise kits. I think we only need 1. So that'll go in the backpack. So that's probably like makeup and some other things to do with the costuming. He's got leather armor. Pan flute is going to go in the pouch. And it looks like he's got 2 different pouches here, so we only need 1, so I could delete one of those. And then the rations will go in the backpack, water skin, backpack. So you go through and systematically organize your content if you want. So he's got 2 daggers and a rapier. So we might change that if he goes up in levels. And then what I like to do is stretch the character sheet out a little further so we can see everything. And then for the notes, you can actually take and grab the background and open that up for this particular choice for the Charlatan. And then you can go back to your notes tab and decide which of these that you would like to check out. So your feature false identity, you created a second identity so you can, basically establish yourself. And then you can forge documents, including official papers, personal letters, as long as you've seen an example of that kind of document or the handwriting you're trying to copy. So that's pretty cool to be able to set up another identity. Not to say that the other backgrounds aren't cool, but that's a really cool feature. Can really be handy. You also have this disguise kit. You have tools, which are the 10 stoppered bottles filled with colored liquids, a set of weighted dice, a deck of marked cards, or a signet ring of an imaginary duke, and a pouch with 15 gold. So if we go to our inventory, we can give them a deck of cards or some kind of weighted dice for cheating. And then the gold piece here, it gave us 30, but we're only supposed to have 15. I think it actually pulled from that twice. And then as far as your push, pull, drag, and such, that's based on what you're carrying in your inventory. So that's cool. So that is just a kind of an example of some of the things you look at as you're building your character. And then you go to your notes tab. We can write false identity here so that later on we remember to work with our DM if this is a thing. And it can also come up in roleplay where you can actually build your false identity. So that would be something that might be fun instead of already having one. And then you have these tables that you can roll on. So let's look at the personality traits. So for the Charlatan, it says, I fall in and out of love easily, and I'm always pursuing someone. I like that. So I'm going to put that as one of the 2 personality traits. I have a joke for every occasion, especially occasions where humor is inappropriate. Flattery is my preferred trick for getting what I want. I'm a born gambler who can't resist taking a risk for a potential payoff. I lie about almost everything, even when there's no good reason to. Sarcasm and insults are my weapon of choice. I keep multiple holy symbols on me and invoke whatever deity might come in useful at any moment. And I pocket anything I see that might have some value. I kind of like the flattery one or the gambler. I'll say this guy has a gambling problem. So we'll put that on there. And you can also roll for these. So you don't have to choose them right off the list. You can roll the dice. Let's see what it does. So it says, I distribute the money I acquire to the people who really need it. And that might be something kind of cool. Like he's kind of like a Robin Hood. They believe in fairness, charity, creativity. I never run the same con twice. I kind of like that. Friendship, material goods come and go. Bonds of friendship last forever. Aspiration, I'm determined to make something of myself. I think that'll work is ideal. And then for bonds, says, I fleeced the wrong person and must work to ensure that this individual never crosses paths with me or those I care about. I kind of like that. So that's going to be something he's always looking for. He's always having trouble with. He's got that haunting him. Kind of messed with the wrong person. And then this other flaw is I can't resist a pretty face. I think that goes hand in hand with he's always in love and falls in and out of love. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. And that should be good enough for the background. It's going to be male. I don't know about the age yet. I'm going to give him a kind of a neutral or chaotic neutral for his actual NE. Yep. So neutral has to be spelled correctly. So chaotic neutral. And if you have a deity, that can be here. So you can be like Sylvanus or someone. Maybe he has his own deity that he looks up to. So it really depends. So once you're done with the background, then you come to the actions tab. And this is kind of where all the magic happens. So you have your dodge actions, your Bardic Inspiration. We have some candles. You have your magic resistance that comes from the Satyr. You have your cantrips and then your 4 spells. So what I'm going to do is go to preparation mode. And I'm going to read about these. So I know I have 5 candles. and they don't necessarily replenish. So I'm going to put once on here because that's basically how many times that the candles can be used. And then for Bardic Inspiration, if you read the description, you come down here, it says you can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier when you regain expended uses after you finish a long rest. So right now it's set to daily. I think his modifier is +3. Yeah, so he's got a 17, so he gets a +3 modifier. So I'm going to set the Bardic Inspiration to 3 times, and it's set to daily. So after you use them, you can check them off, and then they'll, if you do a long rest, that'll reset those. The candles won't reset because those are one-time use. The magic resistance is a passive ability that'll be on all the time, so we can do that. I want to change the ammunition up here to 2 because he's got 2 daggers in case he wants to throw it. And I think that's about it. I mean, that's pretty thorough other than, you know, some of the background information, maybe a couple more items. So I might give him a potion of healing. We'll see. So I want to go ahead and give him a portrait now that we're here. So if I click on portraits, there are some that come free with Fantasy Grounds. So there's one called FG Fantasy, which is essentially that. And there's modern, sci-fi. But I'm going to go ahead and click on FG Fantasy. And that should give us the choices for looking for his actual portrait. I probably will end up using a tiefling portrait. I don't know if there's any satyr ones per se. We'll find out. But when you first click on the portraits, you'll notice that Fantasy Grounds takes a few minutes to load. So it's because it's going through the entire library and scanning the images. So I want to go through and look for a potential satyr. Let's see, that's a minotaur. Let's come down here to S. So there's the rat man. There's a troll. I don't see anything that's actually says satyr. So I might just use, you know, like a tiefling maybe, because there are some tieflings. Let's see. There's a steampunk girl. There's a Viking. There's a lizard man. Let's see if they got any tieflings. Some undead. There's a rat folk. Yeah, so I don't see any actual tieflings or devilkin, so I'm just going to give them any old thing here. So maybe I'll just give them this goofy human appearance for now. So once you select that, this over here to the right becomes your token. So when you're a character playing in a game, your GM is going to have to add you to the combat tracker. So you access that by clicking on the 2 swords. And then over here, we have an assortment of characters that were already on this thing. So I'm going to change all those to neutral. And then I'm going to go to the menu and delete. And I'll just delete all non-friendly so I can get rid of them at once. And then you put the satyr on the combat tracker as the game master, or if you're the host. And then if you go back to the actions tab, down at the bottom, change it to combat and actions. This is kind of where you're going to be when you're playing. Put on the magic resistance. So that's going to help with the saving throws. And then if you're going to use Bardic Inspiration, you can check those off. You're going to ready an action. You have your 2 spell slots up here. Here are your choices for your spells. If you go to the preparation mode, and then you come up here where it says Bard level, and you can actually change up to 4 prepared, I guess. And what that'll do is allow you to select the little bubble next to these. So these are the spells that you have prepared. So now you have these prepared in your inventory. And then if you need to know like what or how many you can prepare per day, you can actually go to the abilities tab, look under your spell casting, and it will tell you and explain how that works. So your spell slots shows how many you have to cast. To cast one of these, you have to expend a spell slot or of level 1 or higher. You must finish a long rest to regain any spells unless it says otherwise. Spells known of 1st or higher. So you know 4 first level spells of your choice from the Bard spell list. So those 4 are the ones he knows, but he can only cast 2 of them per day. So you have to start relying on your cantrips more often if possible. And then some of the spells are going to be ritual casting, which I don't think I have any of those. Some of these are touch. Some of these have a range to them. And then you also have a spell focus, so you can use your instrument as a spell casting focus for your bard spells. So it's probably the pan flute that he uses for his spell casting focus. So that will go into the pouch. So he has it handy for when he's ready to cast spells. It's right there on his person. He doesn't have to use it, but it is kind of cool. So that's basically what he's got there. So let's take a look at his abilities. So he has all of that. And here are his skills. So let's say we want to level up to level 3 so we can get the archetype. So we can cover that before we call it a day on the stream. So what we'll do is go back to the character wizard. So at level 1, we'll say that this character is going to level up to level 2. So we'll go back to the main tab, and on the far right, there is a magnifying glass. You open that up, and this is where we're actually going to be leveling up. So we click the level up button, and what that does is it pulls back up the character wizard. We're going to select or use the up arrow to increase the level. It added Jack of all trades and this magical inspiration, which we probably won't use, and then Song of Rest. And then you go to the class. There's nothing to change there. We've already done it. For spells, you gain another spell slot. So I think we still only get, we can have one more spell that we can pick out of first level. So if I come over to first level spells, I think I'm going to do, let's see, Featherfall, kind of like that, or perhaps Sleep. Yeah, Sleep's really handy. So I'll grab the Sleep spell while we're here. So we'll say he acquired another spell. And then go to feats. There is none at this level. We don't have to worry about it. Hit commit. And all the changes are pretty much made for you. And if you come back to the Actions tab, you have the Jack of all trades thing here that you can add. This was added automatically, and Song of Rest. So the Jack of all trades will give you initiative bonus. So if you put that on yourself, this will give you your initiative bonus. So this right here should be on self. And then when you actually click the button, it'll apply it to your character. So you'll get a +1 on your initiative roll. So that's Jack of all trades, initiative 1, and then your check for half proficiency on all rolls can be done there. Or if you want to, you can go to your skills and then just take all of these bonuses here and change these to half proficient, the ones that you're not proficient with yet. And then there's some that you might be expertise in, so we can do that too at 3rd level, I believe. I don't remember what level that happens, but you basically get the ability to become double proficient or expertise in it. So there's nature, religion, and survival. So you get a half proficiency on everything at 2nd level. So you're proficient with most things, and you get to add like half your proficiency bonus or a minimum of 1. So that's pretty nice. That's one cool thing about bards. And then if you go to the abilities, it says Jack of all trades. If you read this, it says that you can add half your proficiency bonus rounded down to any ability check that you make that doesn't already include that bonus. So that's what we just did there. We don't need the magical inspiration. That's going to go away. Bardic Inspiration, we already got that. Jack of all trades. Song of Rest, we already added that. So there we go. So that's for 2nd level. So you're getting closer to your archetype at this point, which really helps for when you're building your character. It really makes for an easier time with that. Now you have 3 spell slots, so that was taken care of. So now let's say we want to go to level 3. So the process is the same. We have to make sure that the books are available when you're doing this as well. So if you're at your table or your GM's table, make sure the books are activated. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, click level up, it's going to go back to the character wizard. I'm going to hit the up arrow, which is now immediately asking me what bard expertise that we want to have. So I think for expertise, I want performance, and let's go with I kind of like history. So we'll have 2 of those will be our expertise. And then we need to pick a college. So I'm going to do the College of Eloquence. And then we'll go to spells, in which we get 1 more spell to pick for our particular build. And that will be for level 2. So I'm going to pick, let's go with, I want to use this heat metal. That's very, very handy. So that's our spell choice for a 2nd level spell slot that we can use if we want. So that helps our spell book. Click on feats. No feats to be added or chose. So we'll just, don't worry about that. It's satisfied. And you can go back and check, make sure your spells are correct, and then go ahead and hit commit. Once you've done that, if you come back to your actions tab, let's see, I got the Jack of all trades, Bardic Inspiration, Song of Rest, or Candles, Magic Resistance. Here's our cantrips, here's our 1st level spells, and the 2nd level spells. So now that that's set, we can actually prepare up to 4 of these. So I want to go back to preparation mode. I'm going to get rid of this Tosh's laughter and prepare the heat metal just in case. And then Fairy Fire, Cure Wounds, Charm Person are as the ones I'm going to have memorized. And now I go to combat and action. So we're ready to go. So once this character is done, I can save this, but I want to put level 3 and then College of Eloquence, so that the person that plays this will know what it is. And it doesn't matter if it's male or female, you can always change that if needed. And all the other little role-playing details, those can all be fixed and changed after the fact, so you don't have to keep any of this stuff. But he's chaotic neutral, but I actually wanted to make him good, not neutral. So chaotic good. Male, let's say he looks like he's about 25 or so. He's probably only a whole 4'11", and he might weigh 123 pounds soaking wet. And he's kind of got that cloven kind of backwards leg things going. So, and there's our spell slots. So we have 2 2nd level spell slots and 4 1st level now. And once you're done with this, you can actually have your GM export it. So if I go to the characters, and then if you need to, we'll look at the Eloquence. So here's the Bard of Eloquence. So if we want to do is we can export this. So if we click the edit list and click this export character button, it'll actually pop up and it will ask for the where you want to save the file. So I'm just going to say call the file level 3 Bard. And then Eloquence or something like that, so that I can figure out what it is later on. And that way I get an idea of what it is. And then so you can export that and then, of course, give it to your GM, or if you're the GM, you can send that to your players if needed. So that's how you export a character if you're going to do so. I think that's going to pretty much end the stream. I think I've been going for a good hour, so didn't get any requests this time, which is fine. I probably won't do this again, but if I do, I will make sure to put out a broadcast. If you guys are watching this later on, I'll go ahead and mark where the character creation starts, so you're not having to go through all my blah, blah, blah stuff. And then I will see you guys around, and have a good day. Enjoy your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.